Welcome to Best of the Nest, a weekly program produced by the television production students of Armstrong High School. Each and every week, we will take a look at some of the unique things happening in our school and community. Today, we are talking about the Veterans Breakfast. I'm Olivia Kivalowski of AHS-TV, and I'm joined by Ms. King. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself for our viewers?
Hi, my name's Katie King. I'm a social studies teacher here at AHS. I teach 9th grade U.S. history, AP U.S. history, and also American geopolitical conflict, which is military.
Thank you. We are now going to take a closer look at what goes on at the Veterans Breakfast.
Thanks, Liv. I'm Zoe Kuch, a student here at AHS, and we're going to take a closer look at the Veterans Day breakfast. I'm here with Taylor Claypool, the president of National Honor Society. What is the purpose of the Veterans Day breakfast?
Well, every year we invite the veterans into our school to give back to them and show appreciation for all of their service.
Do you think it has a positive impact on our school and our community?
Yes, I do, because it shows that the students are involved in the community and that they care and notice these kinds of things.
Do you enjoy being a part of this?
Yes, I do. I love talking to all the veterans and hearing their stories, and I get a really good breakfast out of it too.
Thank you. Now I am here with the head of Key Club, Mrs. Bowser. What is the purpose of the Veterans Day breakfast?
Well, we started with when the schools combined, we wanted a way to honor our local veterans, bring them in, get them to tell their stories, and have the kids understand the sacrifice that they make for their freedoms.
Yeah. Now, do you enjoy being part of this?
Yes, both my parents, grandparents were veterans. I enjoy being able to feel like I'm honoring them and give the kids the opportunity to appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Here is the food that National Honor Society prepared for our veterans. This is our NHS members serving breakfast to our other National Honor Society members. These are the decorations we have up in our lobby to support our veterans. And here are all of our lovely veterans enjoying their breakfast. After the breakfast, we always have an assembly to honor our veterans where all of their names will be announced. And then afterwards, we will listen to songs from our chorus and band, and then listen to a speech from a guest speaker. This year, it was a teacher, Mr. Petrus. So what did you think of the assembly?
I thought the assembly was really nice. It was very inspirational. Mr. Petrus really hit the nail on the head there and kind of got a little teary-eyed part of the assembly.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I thought that the assembly was pretty well written, well done by Mr. Petrus. It was very inspirational, and it was a very nice tearjerker for the crowd, and a big thank you for the veterans.
I thought the assembly was very good for the veterans. It was very good for the school to see different things. Mr. Petrus had a speech, and it was very motivational. It was great to listen to and hear all of his talking points, and I hope everyone got something out of it.
Thank you, Zoe. I'm Olivia Kivalowski of AHS-TV. For those of you just joining us, I'm joined today by Ms. King to talk about the Veterans Breakfast. So our first question is, what is the Veterans Breakfast?
The Veterans Day Breakfast is a program we created to recognize the service of veterans in our community. It also gives us the opportunity to work with the students and the veterans. As the students prepare everything, they serve the food, and we also let the kids, after they serve the food, sit down, have breakfast with veterans. So there's a lot of interaction between the students and the veterans.
And I was also there, and I know that the veterans really appreciate that. They always, when they walk in, they tell us how excited they are to see us, and that we put all this for them.
Right, and in the community, I always hear about it, how thankful they are for us for doing it, and you can just see it when they walk in. They're smiling, happy, I think, and excited for the day.
Oh yeah, because it's nice to have recognition, even though they do, but just not in the community, but at a school too, that we put that program together.
Yeah. And like I said, I think the interaction with the kids is also the best part for them, is to get to share some of their stories and sit down and have some one-on-one interaction time.
Yes. So how long have we been hosting this event?
We started the event here whenever we opened the school. So this was our 5th year having the Veterans Day Assembly, which was very nice. It was something we wanted to start something kind of an annual tradition
Right.
that we could do each year. And so we got it organized the first year and have been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. What clubs host the breakfast?
The two main involved are Key Club and NHS. Key Club does a lot of the organizing and planning. National Honor Society is predominantly in charge of the breakfast, helping with the breakfast and serving it.
Why those clubs in particular?
Both are service-based, I think, is a
Right.
big part of it. The first year that we did it, it was actually something that was put on by Miss Kidder and myself. We discussed the need to start something, and
Right.
it's something, both of us have a lot of connections to the veterans in the community, obviously, with her dad being very involved in the community. So we wanted to get something that we could do each year. So actually, the first year, it was my military history class and her creative writing class were the ones who organized it. It was a lot to take on, so
Right.
we asked NHS to take care of the breakfast. And then Key Club volunteered to take it on
that's
in
awesome.
future events because of they already did a number of events with veterans in the community and they were already planning some things. And so they volunteered. Again, their service, a service-based organization who wanted to take on a bigger role.
So those two clubs seem to like work out like the best together
Yeah.
to like get the job
Right.
done.
Right. In between, Key Club does more of the planning,
Right.
the invitations, sending out the invitations, contacting the veterans, organizing, making sure the band and the chorus know what's going on. They take on a lot of the organization role, and then NHS takes the breakfast,
Right.
serving food, planning for the food portion.
Who usually makes the food?
The National Honor Society, so the kids that are members volunteer to bring in different types of foods, and they're the ones responsible for it.
What do we serve at the breakfast? Like what type of food?
All different types of stuff. It kind of depends on the kids, so each year it changes a little
Right.
bit. Typically, there's some different types of casseroles, donuts. They bring in bagels. I think they had waffles this year. Sometimes you'll have sausage and bacon.
Right.
They had fruits, yogurt, so just a number of different things. And then we also provide coffee and juices and different drinks for the
Yeah, I know a
veterans.
couple of the veterans walked up, oh, that was so good and all that stuff. So
Exactly.
that's exciting to see
There's
that.
always lots of food. And I think
Yes.
it's always very good food, too.
Yes. How many veterans usually attend, like a rough estimate?
We typically have around 50. It kind of depends on
Right.
what other events are going on because some of the other schools also host different types of assemblies. This year it was the same as West Shimokins. Last year we actually had it on different days, so we had different people able to, because some are committed to go there. But we
Right.
typically have had about 50 people.
Is that the most that we've ever had? Like 50 or?
Yeah, the first couple years we kind of kept it a little smaller, so
Right.
we got things kind of planned and
Yeah.
organized. But last year I think we had like 47, and I think
Oh.
this year we were at 49 or 50. So
Oh, that's
this was the most this year
that
that
it's
we've
like
had.
growing too.
Yeah,
So
and each year we seem to get a few more people
Yeah,
involved, which
that's
is nice.
awesome. What time does the Veterans Day breakfast normally start and how long does it last?
We usually start to see the veterans arriving about 7:45. We start breakfast at 8, and then we plan till about 8:45, give everybody enough time to eat, kind of relax, talk for a little
Right.
bit, because a lot of the veterans know each other from
Yeah,
various,
yeah.
the VFW and American
Mhm.
Legion. So they like to sit around and kind of talk to each other for a little bit too. So we give about 45 minutes for them to eat and sit around and
Right. We're going to take a short commercial break and we'll be right back with more of AHS-TV's Best of the Nest.
I fell in love with the campus, with the people, with my IUP life. See it for yourself. Visit us. Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Find your success.
And we're back with more of AHS-TV's Best of the Nest. I'm Olivia Kivalowski of AHS-TV and we're picking back up with the Veterans Breakfast. So what usually follows the breakfast?
So after the breakfast, we have 2 assemblies. Each assembly, we usually have 1 to 2 guest speakers, depending on who we can get, how long they feel comfortable speaking. During the assembly, they also, the band usually performs and the chorus is also involved. We have the national anthem. Usually they prepare some type of patriotic song
Right.
or something along those lines. So usually the assemblies are about 45 minutes by the time you get the speakers and some
Right.
of the.
So you said 2 assemblies. So is that like, is it split up by the grade?
Yeah, we have the different grades. The first one is 10 through 12, and the second one is 7, 8, 9. So we have the senior high band and chorus play for the first assembly,
Right.
and then the junior high is involved with the junior high chorus band participating in the second.
And that's good too, because sometimes it's hard to get everyone to be able to go to assembly since we have so many kids in our school.
Yeah,
so
and we're
it's
kind of
nice.
limited with space.
Right.
The auditorium, we can't fit the entire school in there.
Right, and the gym as well.
And the
so.
gym too wouldn't be as nice a setup,
No,
especially with
right.
the band and the chorus and everything. We've discussed possibly trying to move it out to the football field so you could have everybody, but with November weather, you never know what's going to happen.
Yes.
Whether it's going to be rainy, snowy, if it's going to be too cold. So the best option is to go with the auditorium, but because of the limited amount of space, we can only get so many kids in there. So
Right.
that's why we do 2, but it does give everybody the chance to see the.
So this kind of ties in with what we were just talking about. Do all grades 7 through 12 get to attend assembly?
Yeah, so everybody gets to attend, which is nice because,
Right.
like I said, you get the 10, 11, 12, the older kids with first assembly, and the older kids with the band and the chorus getting to be involved. So that's a nice setup for that.
Right.
And then the second assembly with the 7, 8, 9, kind of have a different dynamic with those kids, but
Right,
it
yeah.
definitely gives them an opportunity to be in there and hear what we want them to hear from the
Right.
veterans.
And if like younger kids don't get to attend to the breakfast and they have a family member there, they could potentially see them too. So that's always nice.
Yeah, and that's nice. And we kind of let the veterans, if they have somebody they know, we'll say, hey, we can invite them down or whatever.
Right.
If they want that. Usually we try to keep it with the older kids. It's kind of
Yeah.
a privilege for some of the older kids.
Yes.
I know I always give the option, especially with my military class, if they invite someone to come, then they can come to the breakfast.
Right.
They can come and sit with them, and usually a lot of time it's a grandparent or
Mm-hmm.
something, or dad or mom or a sibling. So that is a nice opportunity for
Right,
them
right.
to come down and hang out. But usually with the older kids, we give a little more leeway with
Yeah.
that.
So how do you choose who speaks like at the assembly?
That's been kind of a different process each
Yeah.
year. We go a lot based on recommendation. Now, Mr. Petrus has spoke twice now
Oh, yeah,
at
he
the
did a great
assemblies,
job.
and he did a wonderful job
Mhm.
this year. Very inspirational,
Yes,
I think, and
very.
everything he said was very heartfelt. So we've had him, obviously being a tech ed teacher in the building.
Right.
He's one that we talk to frequently, and he has a good connection with the kids. I've worked predominantly with like the VFW and the American Legion, particularly with Jack Bennett and Jim Scahill.
Yes.
Both men who are very active in the community, not just here, obviously, but
Right.
anything that involves veterans in Armstrong County, they're involved with. So I've met with them numerous times. I take their recommendations. Usually they have people that speak at their events. So I'll ask who's a good person to speak,
Right.
because not everybody feels comfortable speaking,
Right, no,
especially in
that's
front of that
okay.
many people. So we try to find people who we know are going to be comfortable, who have a good story to tell, and who are going to really connect to the students.
And I think Mr. Petrus was a good pick too, because a lot of students know him, so they want to like kind of hear his backstory too.
Right, and
So I
you
think
know,
that's very interesting.
he has a very interesting background
Oh,
too.
yes.
You know, he was deployed, and he has a really strong, kind of heartfelt connection to the military and to the students, and trying to get them to understand the importance of
Yeah.
Veterans Day. So it's partially about his service, but it's also about the importance of Veterans Day and why we recognize it.
Right. What do they talk about in their speeches?
It kind of varies. Mostly we try to get people who have good firsthand experience and stories, something that will catch your attention. We like them to talk about their stories,
Right.
what their experiences were in the military and why those military experiences are important to them. So they talk a lot about their personal experiences and what they did while they were, a lot of them have been deployed
Right.
in war zones. So they talk a lot about that. Many of them will talk about the friends that they lost, recognize the people who did not come home, and the challenges that faces. And then they like to mention the importance of Veterans
Right.
Day, why we recognize it, why it's important that the kids and everybody kind of follows along and recognizes the importance of thanking our veterans and appreciating the things they do.
Yeah. And Mr. Petrus, he was really passionate about his story. I think that was like the best part about him. It was really heartfelt and great. So I think he was a really good.
He was, and again, his comfort of speaking in front of people like that,
Right.
I think that helped too. But
Mhm.
just his story and his ability to connect to the kids and
Right.
talk about things that will keep their attention and really get them
Yeah.
to focus on what was taking place.
Is there a specific story that you remember that has like stuck with you?
There's a couple. two in particular, and actually both of them come in and speak to my class too,
Oh, that's
which is
awesome.
nice. So I've heard a little bit more than what's at the Veterans Day Assembly. But the first one is a gentleman by the name of Raymond Tarr. He spoke at last year's Veterans Day Assembly. He served in Vietnam. He was severely wounded and still has a lot of the scars from it. And so he tells his story, but he also presents some of the positives. You know, you think you get wounded, you have all these bad things that happen to you, but he's able to say what the military has done for him,
Right.
what he has done afterwards, and he keeps a very, very positive perspective on things, even though he has these very visible wounds. But his story, and again, he has expanded a little more, having a little bit more time to talk in my class, so I've heard that story a little more closely. The other one is a guy by the name of Jim Fort. He spoke at the first assembly for us. He was aboard the USS Forrestal in Vietnam. There was an accident. A Zuni rocket had accidentally fired from one of the planes.
Oh, wow.
There was a large fire, and I think there was 134 people that were killed. And he was actually on the flight deck of the aircraft carrier when this all happened. He lost a lot of friends, a lot of people that he served with. But he's very passionate about remembering those people, and that's one of the reasons he likes to speak, is to remind people of the ones that were lost. And it kind of gives him some closure to things that had happened and to have the ability to talk about it.
As you said, there was a second story or that you remember?
Mr. Tarr and Mr. Board, so the two that I would say. But everybody has had very good messages, again, obviously with Mr. Petras and the things that he talked about. We've had various speakers throughout the years who have talked about some very inspirational stories.
And what's like very interesting too is everyone has their own different story. Like no one's are really the same, which is like good because you get to see it from different perspectives and whether they were in like the Army or the military. Like
the different branches definitely provide some different options, and also we've tried to have some older people, younger people. We did have a woman speak the one year, which was nice. I'd like to see a little more of that too. I think because we kind of overlooked some of the service from various people, but we try to get some different perspectives. Again, we've had some people from Vietnam, some that were in Iraq and Afghanistan currently. So we try to get some different perspectives, and also, like you said, the different branches provide some different perspectives on the similar conflicts.
Yeah, because they can be like based in different
locations.
locations.
And there's a lot of different, like I said, Navy involved versus the boots on the ground, the Marines and the Army have some different.
How long do the speeches normally last?
They're usually about 10 minutes. It kind of depends. This year we only had Mr. Petras speak, so he volunteered to speak a little bit longer. So it kind of depends on the speaker, how comfortable they are. You know, if we have two speakers, we usually go 8 to 12 minutes. One speaker, maybe a little longer, 10 to 20 minutes. Kind of depending on how long we need them to speak. And the program usually lasts about a half hour to 45 minutes total. So we usually have the speech as part of it, and then you have the band and the chorus performances. And they also recognize each veteran, everybody in attendance. They call out the names and give them a chance to be recognized. So in the end, it takes about 45 minutes total for the entire.
Have we ever had more than one speaker, or is it normally just one?
We've typically had two. The first year we actually had three, but we didn't have the band and chorus involved. So we actually did 3 speeches. I think we told them about 8 minutes apiece. We would do like the national anthem and some of that, but it wasn't quite as big a deal from some of the extra things that we've involved in the last couple of years. After the first year, we went to 2 speakers. There's been some times that a third person maybe comes and volunteers. They want to say something. I know the one gentleman recognized the Marine Corps birthday. The one year he was in the Marines, and our assembly was held on November 10th, which is the Marine Corps birthday and something they celebrate a lot. So he wanted to recognize that. So he asked if he could speak for just a couple minutes. So usually, though, we have 2. And like I said, this year we had Mr. Petras, and we knew that he was able to speak a little longer and be able to present a little longer.
What is usually the reaction of the students to the speech?
The students are always very respectful. I think in general, in our county especially, we have a strong connection to veterans and appreciation of what the veterans have done. And so I think you really see that with the speeches. You know, I really haven't had discipline problems. They're paying attention, they're listening. Sometimes they'll ask for interactions, kids raise their hands if they have a parent who served or anything, and you usually see a pretty strong connection to that. So I think the kids are always very respectful. Sometimes after the program, some will walk down, shake hands, tell them thank you for your service. If they have family members down there, especially, they like to walk down. But I always have a few kids that walk down to greet the veterans,
That's awesome.
especially the ones who spoke, to thank them, tell them they
Right.
did a nice job. And that's something that is very nice to see.
Yeah, it's definitely a different atmosphere. I could even tell between Veterans Day Assembly or like a pep rally or something
Yeah.
like.
Sometimes there's not full attention at some
Right,
of the other events or
exactly.
some of the other assemblies that they have. But this is one I think we get a very nice response from the
Right.
students. The kids are very attentive and
Yeah.
respectful, and that's something that I appreciate, obviously, and I think everybody appreciates that they recognize the importance of the day and of the veterans who are in
Yeah,
attendance.
I'm glad that we all were respectful, and
Right.
it's like I think it means not a lot to like the staff, but as well as like the veterans. too.
Right, and I think it's important for them to see how respectful the kids
Right.
are too, and especially appreciating them and what they have done. So I think
Yes.
it ends up being a very nice program, and we appreciate the way the kids behave,
Yes.
especially.
How would you describe this experience in your?
It's a great day. It really is. It's something I look forward to. It can be emotional,
Oh,
listening to
yes.
some of the stories, especially the recognition of the people who maybe didn't come back. But to hear their stories, to sit down and speak with the veterans and talk to them, it's something, to me, it's fascinating. It's very interesting to hear the different stories. Everybody has a different story. Some deployed, some maybe didn't. Some were in different places. They have very different experiences, but it's really neat to see the veterans, to talk to them, to understand kind of what is taking place on that day, and to be around them. I really enjoy it. I especially enjoy listening to the Vietnam veterans.
Right.
They're a group overall, the history of it, that they weren't always welcomed home. They didn't get the appreciation
Right.
that a lot of other conflicts did. So I think for a lot of them to be here, to sit there, to talk to them, to listen to them, it's very almost therapeutic for them
Right,
to
right.
be able to talk about their experience and to see the appreciation. The appreciation maybe they didn't get when they first came home.
Right.
They get it from the students, from the faculty, everybody talking to them, and to have the comfort of talking openly about their experiences, because for a long time people didn't want to talk about Vietnam. We didn't want to talk about
No,
a
right.
lot of what had happened. So they're kind of one of my favorite groups
Yeah.
to sit and talk to, because I think they genuinely appreciate the welcoming and the atmosphere of everything. And again, the kids walking around thanking them for their service is something maybe they didn't get.
Right. And I know from a student's experience, like I enjoy that day too, just to see like the smiles on all the veterans' faces, and they always walk up to you and say like, "Thank you for doing this." Like just little things that make me happy because it makes them happy.
Yeah, I think they really appreciate it. Like I said, I've run into a few of them outside of school,
Right.
At various places, and they look forward to the, oh, are we doing it this year? Of course we're doing it.
Aw.
Of course we're having it. And they'll tell their friends too. Like I know if I see one person who hasn't been there and somebody else, oh, it's such a nice day. It's something that they really look forward to. And I think that's something that I appreciate about it too, is how much they look forward to it, how much they enjoy coming to
Right.
the event. And that's something I think that's important.
Yeah, because my grandpa has been coming for the past couple years, and he always looks forward to it, even just to hear like other people's stories, and he likes to listen to like the band and stuff, just to see that like what our school can put together and how nice it is for everybody.
Right, and I think all the schools put on a nice program. I
Oh,
know
yes,
West Shamokin has a
definitely.
nice event. Some veterans actually will come here at first because we're a little earlier than the elementary schools.
Right.
Some will come here, maybe only stay for the first assembly. Not all of them can always stay for the second
Right.
assembly. But usually the elementary programs start around like 10 or so, 10 or 10:30.
Mhm.
So a lot of them will come, have breakfast, come to the first assembly, and some of them will leave after that to go to some of the other programs that are
Right.
being put on. So across the district, I think we have a lot of really nice programs that take place. I think all of our local veterans in the community really.
Right, and I like when I also see like the veterans in their nice uniforms. Like I saw some of them like wearing them, and I think
Yeah.
that's very like awesome that they still can
Yeah,
like,
and a
put
lot
that
of them
on and
still
feel
have
proud.
like their hats and
Right.
different pins, and there's certain things that they enjoy
Yeah.
bringing to the assembly to showcase,
Right, to
not
show,
just
yeah.
what they served, but where they were, and it's really neat to see them when they.
Right, because some of like the older men like have different uniforms than like we would have now, because everything's evolved. So that's cool to see from like a different timeline almost.
Right, it's really neat to see some of the stuff they have, and again, a lot of them have pins and different things recognizing
Right.
some of the different things they did. So to see them wearing it and displaying it is something that they can be proud of, and,
Right.
and we're proud of to see
Yes,
when they come in.
definitely. Do you think you'll continue to host this event?
Yeah, I plan on staying involved with it. Even though, again, my class isn't as heavily involved as what we did initially.
Right.
It's something that I take a lot of pride in. I have a lot of connections, again, to like the VFW and American Legion, not just for the Veterans Day Assembly, but I also bring a lot in to speak with my classes and give the kids in my military class firsthand
Right.
looks at what they experience. So it's something I enjoy. Again, I like hearing from the veterans who have been here.
Yes.
And I think it's something that we can take a lot of pride in as a school. And so it's something I plan on being involved with as long as I'm here.
That's awesome. And it's nice that like you have connections too, because we get to see a lot of familiar faces every single year, like the same ones. So I think that's nice.
And we
Because
invite, basically once they come to one, we have their address.
Right.
Part of what they respond with is their address. So each year we send it out to
Oh,
people.
okay,
And
yeah.
even sometimes I get responses, even though we more want who's coming, so we have an idea of how much food and everything
Right,
to have. There's some who, if they can't make it, they still email me and apologize that they're not going to be able to
Aw.
make it because they really like to come to
Right.
the event. So usually I hear from a lot of people, but we get a lot of repetition. Once they come once, it seems like they keep coming back here and they
Right.
look forward to the event.
And that's awesome that they like email you and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," because that shows you that they want to be there and like
Right.
they like the event. So that
Right.
probably makes you feel
I
really
think
good.
as a group, for myself, for Key Club, for NHS, that,
Right.
I think that's something that's important to hear and to see is how much they appreciate what we're doing.
Right. Is there anything else you would like to say to the veterans out here watching the show right now?
I think as everybody else would say, thank you for your service. We really appreciate, especially them coming to the Veterans Day Assembly and seeing them. But, I think, and something I encourage a lot in my classroom is we sometimes take for granted, even being here, being in a school, having an
Right.
education. You don't realize in some of these other countries, you don't have that opportunity. And when we think of everything we have, it's because of our veterans.
Right.
And so we appreciate your service, your sacrifices,
Definitely.
the bravery, everything that goes into it. Very appreciative of the things that they have done. And I think one thing that I like to recognize is the commitment of people in our
Oh,
community.
definitely.
Armstrong County has a long history of involvement in conflict, of stepping up when they were needed. And there's a lot of people in our community who have taken that step. And so
Yes.
we appreciate it.
Yeah, I always think I wish I could be as courageous as some of them because it's something I don't like, just in my perspective, could never do and be like that heroic. I just want to thank everyone that does it because it's really,
And I think it's hard to imagine what they had to
Oh.
go through.
oh
Yeah,
definitely.
it's something I don't think most people understand what it was like, but I think the appreciation of it, and hopefully we'll continue on with the Veterans Day program. I would say if you need information on it, contact the school, contact me for future reference. It is something we do each year, so it's something that we'll in the fall be starting to send out invitations again. So if there's anybody what has not been to it, would like to attend, you can contact the school, contact myself, and I can get information out for them.
Yes, well, thank you for coming in today. Well, that's our show for this week. I'd like to thank Ms. King for joining me today. Best of the Nest is a production of students enrolled in television production courses at Armstrong High School. Join us again next week for a look at some of the unique things happening in Armstrong High School and communities. Until then, from our nest to yours, have a great week.